Have you ever noticed how some celebrities seem to transform themselves, adopting elements of black culture even though they aren't black themselves? From music and fashion to social media influencers, this controversial trend has sparked intense debates about cultural appreciation versus appropriation. From Katy Perry's eyebrow-raising Dark Horse music video to Bella Hadid's questionable beauty campaigns, let's explore how some famous faces have walked the thin line between admiration and appropriation of black culture. What drives these celebrities to adopt elements of a culture that isn't their own, and at what point does appreciation become appropriation? Danielle Bregoli, Bhad Bhabie.
I know I'm great, I can't be late. I shine so bright like a diamond round.
Bregoli's transformation from viral sensation to rapper represents one of the most striking examples of cultural appropriation in recent years. After her 2016 Dr. Phil appearance where she coined the phrase "cash me outside," she leveraged her newfound fame to launch a music career. Her 2017 debut single "These Ho" gained millions of views, but it also marked the beginning of intense scrutiny. Critics noted how she adopted not just AAVE, but entire mannerisms, fashion choices, and behavioral patterns associated with black culture. The controversy deepened as she continued to profit substantially from this adopted persona while showing limited understanding of the cultural significance behind these elements. Her defense often centered on claims of appreciation rather than appropriation, but many argued that her quick rise to fame through adopting black cultural elements highlighted broader issues of privilege and cultural exploitation in the entertainment industry. Post Malone. Post Malone's journey in the music industry presents a complex case study in cultural navigation. His breakout hit "White Iverson," named after NBA player Allen Iverson, immediately positioned him within hip-hop culture. While demonstrating genuine musical talent, his relationship with hip-hop became increasingly complicated as his career progressed. He achieved massive success with a sound that heavily borrowed from hip-hop traditions, but his later transition to more pop and country-oriented music raised questions about authenticity and cultural commitment. Critics particularly noted how his facial tattoos and gold grills seemed to appropriate hip-hop aesthetics, while he simultaneously distanced himself from being labeled a rapper. This duality, benefiting from black cultural elements while maintaining the ability to step away from them, exemplifies broader patterns of privilege in the music industry. Iggy Azalea.
I think, you can't help it when you adopt a culture from somewhere else. You can't help but be influenced by the accents, by the sound. So there were a lot of Australian rappers that would rap in an American accent early on. It's not thin. Yeah, it's natural, I think. But then it became this kind of controversy. You're either in this one camp that rapped like a quote-unquote Yankee, or you were this kind of beer and barbecue rapper who rapped in your real Aussie accent and kind of really overplayed it. And now I think it's kind of settled somewhere in the middle and it's a bit more chilled, we've matured a lot.
The Australian rapper's case represents one of the most discussed examples of cultural appropriation in hip-hop. Her adoption of a Southern American accent, despite being from Sydney, became a focal point of criticism. The disconnect between her natural speaking voice and her rap delivery was particularly jarring to many observers. Her hit "Fancy" topped charts in 2014, but the success came with increasing scrutiny of her artistic authenticity. Critics argued that her approach to hip-hop represented a form of cultural tourism, where she adopted black cultural elements without demonstrating real understanding or respect for the culture's origins. Her defensive responses to criticism, often dismissing concerns about cultural appropriation, further complicated her relationship with the hip-hop community. The controversy surrounding Azalea became a touchstone for broader discussions about authenticity and appropriation in hip-hop. Miley Cyrus. Cyrus's transformation from Disney Channel star to provocative hip-hop influenced artist represents one of the most dramatic examples of cultural appropriation in pop culture. Her 2013 Bangers era marked a complete departure from her Hannah Montana persona, characterized by twerking performances, gold grills, and collaborations with hip-hop producers like Mike Will Made It. The 2013 VMA's performance with Robin Thicke became a lightning rod for criticism, with many viewing her twerking as a commodification of black dance culture. What made her case particularly controversial was her later dismissal of hip-hop, stating in interviews that she had grown tired of the genre's themes. This rejection, after profiting from the culture, led to accusations that she had treated black culture as a rebellious phase rather than showing genuine appreciation. Her journey illustrates how white artists often have the privilege of adopting and discarding black cultural elements at will. Eminem. Marshall Mathers stands as a unique figure in discussions of cultural appropriation, often cited as an example of respectful cultural participation. Growing up in Detroit's predominantly black neighborhoods, Eminem immersed himself in hip-hop culture from a young age, developing his skills through underground rap battles at venues like The Shelter. His respect for the culture's origins, continuous acknowledgement of his position as a white artist in a black art form, and long-standing relationships with black artists like Dr. Dre have earned him widespread acceptance. Despite facing initial skepticism, his technical skill, dedication to the craft, and willingness to address his privilege in songs like White America have helped establish his legitimacy. His case demonstrates how authentic engagement with a culture, rather than surface-level adoption, can lead to genuine acceptance. Ariana Grande. Grande's relationship with black culture presents a multifaceted case of cultural appropriation debates. Beyond her music's R&B influences, critics have pointed to her gradually darkening skin tone and adoption of what some call a racially ambiguous appearance. Her hit Seven Rings drew particular criticism for its appropriation of trap music styles and lyrics that some felt mimicked black artists' content. Her use of AAVE and certain fashion choices has also raised eyebrows. However, supporters argue that her collaboration with black artists and genuine appreciation for R&B music shows respect rather than exploitation. The controversy around Grande highlights how cultural appropriation extends beyond just music to encompass physical appearance and presentation. Justin Bieber. Bieber's evolution from teen pop idol to urban-influenced artist exemplifies how many pop stars navigate cultural appropriation. His adoption of hip-hop fashion, AAVE, and collaboration with rap artists coincided with his attempt to shed his teen image. However, past incidents involving racial slurs and insensitive comments complicated his relationship with black culture. His style choices, including dreadlocks and urban fashion, drew criticism for seeming more like a marketing strategy than genuine cultural appreciation. His case demonstrates how even unintentional appropriation can be problematic when combined with a history of racial insensitivity. Machine Gun Kelly, MGK. MGK's career trajectory illustrates the complex dynamics of genre switching and cultural appropriation. Initially establishing himself in hip-hop, his beef with Eminem and subsequent Rap Devil diss track marked a turning point. After Eminem's devastating Kill Shot response, MGK's pivot to pop-punk raised questions about authenticity and cultural commitment. Critics viewed his genre switch as opportunistic, suggesting he abandoned hip-hop after failing to succeed within it. His case shows how artists' relationship with black culture can become complicated when career strategies and authentic appreciation collide. Whoa Vicky, Victoria Waldrip. Victoria Waldrip's case stands as one of the more controversial examples of cultural appropriation in social media. Her claims of black heritage without any supporting evidence crossed a line that many found particularly offensive. Unlike other cases of cultural borrowing, Waldrip actively claimed to be part of the culture she was appropriating. Her content featured exaggerated use of AAVE, adoption of traditionally black hairstyles, and performative behaviors that many viewed as caricatures of black youth culture. Her public feuds, especially with Bhad Bhabie, often devolved into problematic displays that reinforce stereotypes. The monetization of this persona through social media made her case particularly troubling, as it demonstrated how digital platforms can reward and amplify problematic cultural appropriation. Elvis Presley. The Elvis Presley case requires historical context to fully understand its complexity. Growing up in Tupelo, Mississippi, and later Memphis, Tennessee, Elvis was genuinely immersed in black musical traditions. His love for blues, gospel, and R&B was authentic, and he often credited black artists as his inspirations. However, the broader social context of 1950s America meant that his success came at the expense of black artists performing similar music. Songs like Hound Dog, originally performed by Big Mama Thornton, illustrate how the music industry systematically favored white artists performing black music. While Elvis himself showed respect for black musicians, his career became symbolic of how American popular culture often appropriated black art forms while marginalizing black artists. Awkwafina, Nora Lum. Awkwafina's case illuminates how cultural appropriation intersects with comedy and acting. Her early career heavily featured what critics termed a blaccent, an affected way of speaking that drew from black cultural expressions. This was particularly evident in her comedic roles and rap performances. As her mainstream success grew, particularly after Crazy Rich Asians, this affected speaking style notably diminished, leading to accusations that she had used black cultural elements as a stepping stone to fame. Her defense, citing her Queen's upbringing as the source of her speech patterns, sparked important discussions about the difference between growing up in a multicultural environment and deliberately adopting cultural elements for entertainment purposes. Chet Hanks. The case of Chet Hanks demonstrates how privilege intersects with cultural appropriation. As the son of beloved actor Tom Hanks, his adoption of Jamaican patois and black cultural elements seemed particularly tone-deaf. His White Boy Summer declaration in 2021 exemplified how cultural elements can be trivialized and commercialized. Despite claiming admiration, his use of Caribbean accents and black cultural markers appeared more like performance art than genuine appreciation. His case is particularly instructive because it shows how even well-intentioned admiration can become appropriative when it lacks understanding and respect for the cultural context. Katy Perry. Katy Perry's relationship with cultural appropriation extends beyond a single incident or style choice. Her Dark Horse music video became a focal point of criticism for its problematic mixing of Egyptian cultural elements with appropriated black cultural elements. The video showcased Perry as an Egyptian queen in scenes that critics argued reduced complex cultural histories to exotic backdrops. Beyond this, her use of traditionally black hairstyles like cornrows in performances demonstrated a pattern of treating cultural elements as costumes. What makes Perry's case particularly noteworthy is how it represents the broader tendency of pop stars to borrow from multiple cultures simultaneously, creating a kind of cultural mashup that can trivialize significant cultural and historical elements. Her response to criticism has often focused on artistic expression rather than addressing the underlying concerns about cultural sensitivity. Gigi Hadid. The Gigi Hadid case illuminates the fashion industry's complex relationship with race and cultural appropriation. Photo shoots featuring Hadid with darkened skin and altered features to appear more ethnically ambiguous sparked important discussions about the industry's double standards. While the fashion world often celebrates traditionally black features on white models, black models continue to face discrimination and limited opportunities. Hadid's case is particularly significant because it demonstrates how cultural appropriation in fashion goes beyond mere styling choices. It involves the systematic way the industry commodifies and repackages ethnic features. The controversy surrounding her shoots helped highlight how the fashion industry often profits from black aesthetic elements while marginalizing black models and creators. Madonna. Madonna's decades-long career provides a unique longitudinal study of cultural appropriation in pop music. From her early adoption of voguing culture, a dance style originated in Black and Latino LGBTQ+ communities, to her use of gospel choirs and religious imagery in Like a Prayer, Madonna has consistently borrowed from black culture. While she has worked extensively with black artists and advocated for inclusion, critics argue that her approach often reduces complex cultural elements to aesthetic choices. What sets Madonna's case apart is the longevity of her cultural borrowing, spanning multiple decades and musical eras. Her career demonstrates how cultural appropriation can evolve over time, sometimes becoming more sophisticated but remaining fundamentally problematic. Bella Hadid. Like her sister Gigi, Bella Hadid's case reflects the broader issues of cultural appropriation in the fashion industry. Her appearance in campaigns wearing traditionally black hairstyles and aesthetics has drawn criticism for contributing to an industry pattern of appropriating black culture while underrepresenting black models. What makes Hadid's case particularly noteworthy is how it intersects with modern social media culture, where her influence extends beyond traditional fashion magazines to millions of social media followers. This amplification of culturally appropriative elements through digital platforms demonstrates how traditional fashion industry problems can be magnified in the social media age. The criticism she has faced has led to broader discussions about representation and authenticity in fashion and social media.